Welcome to EPG Pathasala. I am KP Rao, Professor, Department of History, University of Hyderabad. Under the subject Indian Culture, in paper Principles and Methods of Archaeology, we are going to learn the module on GIS and digital cartography. Let us first learn the aims and scope of the subject. So in this module, you are going to learn the meaning and definition of geographic information systems or GIS, the map projections that are used in GIS work, the varieties of GIS data, collection of GIS data, and use of GIS in archaeological research. And also you will learn how to make digital maps using GIS techniques. So let us learn the meaning and definition of GIS. In simple sense, GIS is a digital mapping facility. So GIS can be defined as a computer system for capturing, storing, querying, analyzing, and displaying geographic data. So that is the meaning of the GIS, or the basic definition of GIS. Let us see what are the requirements in doing GIS work. So usually GIS consists of the hardware, software, and the data. The hardware that is required consists of various equipments like the computers, the GPS equipment, the scanners, the digitizers, and even the satellites. So the softwares consist of the GIS software and also the other graphic softwares and word processors and spreadsheets. So the data consists of the satellite imageries, maps, and that the data that is collected from records, books, and by doing field work. So all this becomes part of the GIS data. So in GIS work, one of the important concept is map projections. So map projections is Earth is basically a three-dimensional sphere. So whereas map is a two-dimensional representation of the Earth. That means a spherical surface has to be transformed or represented in a two-dimensional flat surface. So the transformation from spherical geographic grid to a plane grid is known as a map projection. So this transformation naturally results in some imperfections. So to minimize the imperfections, we have to use different kinds of mathematical formulas or projections. So that is the different kinds of mathematical formulas that are used in transforming the spherical surface into flat surface is known as map projection, which is also known as the CRS, that is Coordinate Reference System. So though when we say that the Earth is a sphere, it is not a perfect spheroid. So different regions of the world need different projections because it is not a perfect sphere. There are also some projections which are used universally. Though we prefer to use different kinds of projection systems because of the unevenness in the Earth's surface, still there are some projections which are used universally with some acceptable error or margin. So the most commonly used projections are the universal transverse Mercator, that is known as the UTM, universal transverse Mercator, and the World Geodetic System of 1984, that is known as the WGS 84. So this UTM and WGS 84 are usually the most preferred projections which are used for this GIS and digital mapping process universally. So the projections that we use in GIS work is known as usually the coordinate reference system. So whatever system, the coordinate reference system we use, whether it is WGS or UTM, that is known as the CRS, coordinate reference system. So now when we talk of this GIS data, then we have to learn how to organize this GIS data. So GIS data is usually organized in three formats. So the first being the raster data, second vector data, and the third attribute data. Usually the GIS data is organized in these three formats: raster data, vector data, and attribute data. So let us see the characteristics of each of this data. That is the raster data. First, the raster data. Raster data uses a regular grid to represent map area. So good examples of this raster data are the scanned maps and the satellite imageries are usually in raster format. One of the simple example of a raster kind of system is the photographs, where you have the, as you keep on zooming in, you see the pixels. So the pixels are actually arranged in raster format. So that is the raster data. And the smallest unit of a raster data is known as the pixels. So usually a pixel contains a lot of information, different kinds of information about the color, temperature, elevation, etc., which is used both in remote sensing as well as in GIS work. So this usually the resolution of an image depends on the real world area represented by a cell. So when we talk of the resolution of the data, that is the resolution of an image depends on the real world, that is the area that is represented by a cell. So the greater the area represented by a cell, lesser the resolution. So the resolution is less if if a pixel is representing a large area. So usually raster data is usually ideal for features that change continuously, like elevation, temperature, etc., which have some kind of continuous transformation or continuous changing. So for collection of such data in GIS work, we usually depend on the raster data, or raster format is used. So raster for data is usually, since it contains the pixels and the information, it usually occupies large memory. So raster data requires also more processing capacity when we do GIS work. So the next format is the vector data. Vector data is usually used for data models that is based on the coordinate data model. So the vector data represents features as points, lines, and polygons. So usually in these three forms, either as a point, that is like a place or a feature, and then lines, that is usually the features like roads, railway lines, telephone lines, border of a country, border of a region, etc. they are represented in the form of lines or otherwise polygons. So polygons, a polygon is a region or a feature enclosed by a line, a closed line. So polygons are used for representing features like the states, countries, a region, or to show a particular site, the area of the site, etc. We use the polygon feature. So the vector data is usually organized as points, lines, and polygons. So vector data is more useful when we have discrete features with definite placement and boundaries. So definite placement means if we have a place like a Delhi, Hyderabad, some place, then there is a definite place where the dot of that place is going to come. So usually in vector data we use such features when we have the definite placement and boundaries. So features like country boundaries, roads, etc. are represented by vectors. Vector features are always attached with attribute data because the vector features have definite characteristics which are known as the attributes. So the attribute data is usually attached to this vector data. Vector files are usually known as the shape files. So when we use the vector data in the GIS work, they are usually known as the shape files. So the next data format is the attribute data. So attribute data contains the non-spatial characteristics of the features. So the attribute data is organized usually in tabular format. So attribute data contains characteristics of features like temperature, rainfall, population, culture, chronology, elevation, etc. We have to incorporate coordinate data or feature ID into the attribute data. That is to give it the information about the placement of the feature, the point or the line or the polygon. We have to attach also the coordinate data with the attribute data so that the position where it is going to, where the feature is going to appear is also incorporated in the data. So vector data usually also contains the positional or coordinate data. While talking about the GIS data organization, we also have to learn the things like attribute data is used for mainly for processing and display of required features. So since the attribute data is used in processing and display of the required features, we have to organize it in proper manner, which is known as the modeling the attribute data. So which is very crucial in GIS. So the process of using the GIS in combination with the data depends mainly on the kind of model that we develop for using the attribute data. So all the data collected from various sources, including the field data, goes into an attribute table. Sometimes the attribute data can have lakhs and millions of entries. That means the GIS programs have the capacity to handle very large data, and especially the attribute data might sometimes have lakhs and millions of entries also. And also we should know the special reference of the attribute data. Spatial reference means the position of the feature where it is going to appear. So the spatial feature also is attached along with the attribute data, or attribute data itself contains the spatial reference, so that the position where the feature is going to appear would also be known. So then in the collection of data, we use various kinds of hardware and software. So one of the important instrument or the system that we use in collection of the GIS data is the Global Positioning System, or GPS system, or and the GPS instruments. So this GPS is a system that is based on the satellites to determine the position anywhere in the world. That means GPS usually has no limitation. Anywhere in the world we can determine the position where we are using the instrument based on the satellite signals. So the GPS depends on the radio signals received from the satellites to determine the location. So there are several satellites, a constellation of satellites maintained by an international consortium. About 24 or so satellites are maintained in orbit by the international consortium, and these all these satellites, they keep on transmitting both time, accurate time, as well as the positional data continuously by them. So the satellite instrument collects this time as well as the position data from the satellite signals, and that is used to determine its location. So usually to determine the location, usually a satellite requires signals from at least 3 satellites. So this GPS system is a all-weather system. So it can be used at any time, and then in all kinds of weathers it can be used to collect the data. And also the as I was telling, the satellite this GPS system also can be used anywhere in the world to determine the position. And usually using this GPS instruments or the systems, we can determine the position of a place within few meters. Usually most of the instruments have the capacity to determine the position up to few meters accuracy. But if we use differential GPS, we can get accuracy within few centimeters also. So that means the advanced GPS systems have an accuracy of few centimeters, up to few centimeters also. So GPS system is a very useful and very accurate system to determine the positions. So when we collect the GIS data, the data has to have the spatial reference. So that is why we use the GPS system extensively to collect the position data or the spatial data for the GIS data. And then the next important concept that is related to the GIS work is the georeferencing. So when we use different kinds of maps and satellite imageries, so these maps and imageries have to be attached with information that tells them where they have to position in the map. So all features included in the GIS projection need to have positional data. So then only that picture, satellite imagery, or the map can be positioned appropriately where it has to be positioned. And then all vector features usually have coordinate data automatically in them. that is the point, line, and polygon features, which are usually known as the shape files. They automatically have positional data, coordinate data in them. So we need not georeference the vector data. So whereas the raster data, like the scanned maps and the satellite imageries, have to be attached with positional data, which is known as georeferencing. So for accuracy, we need to attach coordinates of at least 4 points. Though we can attach more points, but at a minimum of 4 points is usually ideal for attaching the georeferencing data. So this in GIS work, we also have another concept, that is the layering. So usually the GIS work is carried out in different layers. Different map features can be set in different layers in a GIS project. So we can make a layer either active or inactive in the project. So in the project there may be many layers, but it is not necessary that all the layers have to be active. So we can either make them active or inactive by selecting appropriate options. So only an active layer is displayed in the map. So if we make a particular layer with some features inactive, then it won't be displayed in the map. So only the active layers are displayed in the map. And also we can process only an active layer. So if you want to process, do further process with the data that is available or that is incorporated in the layer, we have to make that layer active. So only an active layer can be used for processing the data. And then there is also the possibility of merging or even splitting layer features into different layers if required. So either we can combine 2-3 layers into one layer, or 1, 2, 3 or more layers into one layer, or otherwise we can split a particular layer into 2 different layers also if required. So all this is possible in GIS work. And we can set the properties of the data in layer to display different symbols in under text labels. So when you display a feature like a polygon, line, or a dot, point, then you can have the option of displaying its name or symbol, or both name and symbol. And in symbology also, and symbols also, you can select appropriate symbols. For example, if you are working on the distribution of different wild animals in a particular region, then for different kinds of species like the elephants, tigers, or jackals, or deers, whatever species, you can use different kinds of symbols in the display, apart from having the text labels. So this is all possible because the layering is there in the GIS data. And another advantageous feature with the GIS data is the querying facility. Querying facility is the facility to raise queries or inquire about a particular feature or data or process. So one of the very useful facility is this querying facility, which is also known as a filter function. We can raise specific queries to process and display the required data. So this facility can be used only with vector attribute data. So this querying facility is usually available with the vector attribute data. So with vector this one data, we use this querying facility. So both the text and the numerical data can be processed. in GIS programs. This usually the GIS programs have set formulas to process the data. The set formulas like equal to, less than, more than, etc. would be available in the program itself, and they can be used. So these preset programs are usually used in raising queries. Yeah, now about the GIS softwares. There are various commercial GIS softwares which are available in the market, and also there are open source softwares to work in GIS. ArcGIS is one of the most popular commercial software, and QGIS, GIS, and ILVIS are open source softwares. Hence, these softwares can be freely downloaded and used. QGIS is one of the most popular GIS software available freely, and it has a lot of advantageous features. So let us now learn the process of preparing attribute data. So as I was telling, attribute data contains mainly the data about the different features that are used for display in a GIS project. Attribute data is input in the form of text and numerical fields in a tabular format. That means usually we use the spreadsheets programs like the Microsoft Excel to enter the attribute data. We have to enter different characteristics of the features in different columns. So the file has to, after entering the data, the file has to be saved in CVS, or a format known as comma separated values. So once we enter the data, the attribute data, we have to save it in CVS comma separated format to be used in GIS programs. So that a table containing this GIS data, you also should have two columns that contain coordinate data. So the GIS data has to be attached with the positional data or the spatial data, which is known as the coordinate data, that is the longitude and the latitude. So usually the column known as the X column contains data of the longitude values, and Y column contains latitude values. And this coordinate data has to be entered in preferably in a decimal degrees format. So instead of the degree, minute, second format, it is advisable to enter this data in decimal degree format. So this, apart from this coordinate data, the other characteristics like in archaeological work, like the culture, period, chronology, features, material, extent, elevation, etc. can be entered under such heads in different columns. So apart from all these features, we have the spatial data in the attribute data spreadsheet. So then now we learn the process of preparing digital maps, which is known as digital cartography. Basically, cartography is the practice of preparing maps. So the map preparation itself is an art and a practice. So there are various kinds of established conventions which we have to follow while preparing a map. And a map is supposed to contain reliable data about various essential things. So we learn the process of preparing digital map using GIS programs. So usually the conventional map making has several disadvantages compared to digital map making. For example, usually the digital map making process is a very tedious process, and once we make a map, the size of the map cannot be altered, so the size remains the same. Whereas in digital map, you have the advantage of altering the size of the map, so you can choose what size you want to have the print or the display, and also the changing the colors, features, the font of the letters, etc. is very difficult in conventional map making, whereas in digital format it is very easy, very quickly, by selecting the appropriate options. You can easily change all these features. So the digital map making has a lot of advantages. And in digital cartography, the map components like the grid, legend, scale, which are essential components in a map, are generated automatically. So we need not calculate the length of the linear scale or the interval of the grid, etc. in digital map making. They are generated automatically and also very accurately. So that is one of the great advantage with digital map making. And also the symbology used in the map making can be altered easily. So different kinds of symbols that are used in the map can be changed very easily. So whatever kind of symbol you want to you prefer to use can be incorporated or changed very easily. And also usually the digital maps have layering. So layering is a very advantageous feature because it allows us to either include or exclude some features. So depending on the purpose, depending on the need, what we can do is either we can make some layers active or you can suppress some layers. So that is possible with digital cartography. So in digital cartography, other advantages are we can also include photos, illustrations, and raster and vector features in a digital map very easily. So you can include photos, illustrations, etc. if you want. And also whatever content is displayed on the GIS window can be included in the map output. So whatever display is there when we make a GIS project, all that features can be included in the map output. And then the coordinate grid and linear scale can be generated and altered dynamically as required. So if you want to have a different kind of grid at a different interval, close interval or more interval with more gap, it is easy to adjust the interval of the grid and also the linear scale. So the characteristics of the linear scale, whether to have 3 segments or 5 segments or the kind of scale, etc., can be dynamically. That is, as you keep on doing the map work, it keeps on changing. So when at a higher projection, the map is also projected appropriately. So like that, the dynamic changing of the features is possible. So and ultimately, the map output can be saved either in the image format like a JPG file or in a PDF file, so that we can take the output printouts easily. So that is the process of making digital maps. So to summarize this module, let us see what all have been learnt in this session. So in this module, you have learnt the meaning and definition of GIS, and then the requirements for carrying out GIS, and then the different map projections and the coordinate reference systems, the different GIS data formats like the raster, vector, attribute data, their applications in GIS work, etc. And also you have learned about GPS and its uses in GIS work, the method of attaching the coordinate data to the maps, which is also known as georeferencing, and the GIS data which contains layers. It is possible to display or suppress different layers. So the advantages of using GIS in map making also you have learned. So there is the possibility of raising queries in GIS data, so which is also very advantageous features. There are various preset formulas to raise queries. So different GIS softwares are available, and you have learned how to use QGIS, which is an open source GIS software. So you also have learned the digital map preparation, which is an accurate method of preparing maps. There are several advantages in preparing maps in digital format. You have learned how to compose a map and the method of obtaining map output. So this is all about GIS and digital cartography. So thank you very much for watching this module on GIS and digital map making. Thank you.